Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Growing Up with Godzilla. My name is Donny Winter, and this is my show where I have conversations with Godzilla fans about how they've grown up with the character and the franchise over time. We are in season 2 of the show, and I am really excited to have some new faces on my channel, but also some familiar faces as well. And I am especially excited to have this phenomenal human being joining me today, the delightful Brendan Morley of Autistic Lizard Productions. Hello, my friend. How are you
Mhm.
doing?
I'm doing good, Donnie, and I'm really excited to be on your show. I've been looking forward to it.
I know this has been long in the planning for quite some time, and it's finally happening,
Y-
and it's super cool. It's
Yeah,
super
and
cool.
and you were on my show before, last year, few months ago, not too long, I guess. So, you were in Geezer the Three-Headed Monster episode.
Yes, one of my absolutely favorite movies, and I'm like, we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about your show too, because as a fellow creator, I look at what you do, and it's so awesome seeing you flourish and do all that you do. So
Oh,
we
thank
will
you.
we'll definitely be unpacking that and talking about it. I do want to talk a little bit first about our history as friends too. So this past year in 2022, I believe, was our first meeting ever at G Fest, wasn't it?
That's right. We actually met at G Fest in person.
I know it was really fun. We got to hang out. We got to spend some time with friends. I've often enjoyed G Fest, but this past year was particularly enjoyable for me because I got to really just hang out with, my kaiju YouTuber crew that, have so
Oh yeah.
kindly adopted me into, their midst.
Oh,
So,
oh yeah, it was so much fun at G Fest. I'm looking forward to go back there again this year, and it was fun hanging out with you, Nick, Alyssa, Kaiju Kim, and the others we know. It was so much fun. We're all a family.
yeah, we are. And I think that we kind of like build off from each other. And what I love about our little group is that we encourage one another. Like, no matter what we do, like, we're always like encouraging. And I think that that's the mark of like really good quality friendships.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, Brendan, I'm like really excited to kind of break down your history as a Godzilla fan just a little bit. So, how were you first introduced to Godzilla? Share your story with us.
Well, as far as back I can remember, my very first Godzilla film was actually the 1998 US film, the one that's Matthew Broderick in it. I remember that my dad had this film on VHS. It was way before I discovered the original Toho films. That I I was at first I was like not too crazy about this film and I didn't watch it too much as a kid growing up. I mean, and then like years later, I think it was back in 2003, I think it was. I mean, I remember I went to my local video store with my mom and I was looking at all the VHS films and hopefully I could discover some dinosaurs or kind of dinosaur films might be interested in of watching. And until I found the 1998 Godzilla film, but right next to it, that I first discovered my first Toho Godzilla film, Godzilla 1985, also known
Mhm.
as The Return of Godzilla, but it's the Raymond Burr version.
That's an interesting version. What were your like when you watched it for the first time, like what were your first reactions to it? Like were you like blown away by it?
I mean, when I first saw the VHS cover of it, I mean, I thought that Godzilla looks different, and it doesn't look like from the film I watched. I mean, of course, that was yeah. Of course, I didn't know much about the original Godzilla. Yeah, back then. I mean, I mean, that's only the beginning of my childhood. And at first, I asked my mom if she can rent this film for me, and then she did. I took it home, and I and I brought it, and I watched it in my bedroom, and I kind of miss the old television and VHS video cassette back then, and those are good times. And when I first saw this film, my mind just blows away, and I thought this Godzilla looks much better than the one I watched with the 1998 film. I didn't watch that film that much. I mean, I think I watched it 3 times that same year. I mean, and then on Christmas Day, uh, like, when I was opening my presents that Santa gave me, I actually opened up my very first Nintendo GameCube game called Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee.
Oh, wow, you got one of those. That's exciting. That was such a good
Ye
game. Ugh.
Yeah, I miss GameCube. They should bring it on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, as much as I loved that first game, I think my favorite one is still Godzilla Save the Earth. And I'm sure everyone can take a wild guess as to
Mhm.
why. It's because Mothra is finally a playable character. But I still to this day, my Xbox is set up right there. That's the only game I play on it
Oh,
to
yeah,
this
the
day.
like, the original Xbox?
The original Xbox, and it still
Yeah,
works perfectly. I love it.
yeah, I used to play Xbox a lot. I still have it, like, after I got rid of my GameCube a few years after. I mean, sadly, I don't have Xbox anymore because it's
Um, Yeah, and they're kinda hard to find now too. Only the original ones are hard to find. Did you ever play the sequel games, so Godzilla Save the Earth or Godzilla
Oh
Unleashed?
oh, yes, I did. Now, Godzilla Unleashed, I'm not too crazy about that game.
Yeah, it was kind of I think because the Nintendo Wii was so new at that time, like, the mechanics were, like, really lunky, let's just say. They were, like, really stumbly and kinda difficult to navigate, so but to this day, for me, Godzilla Save the Earth is absolute perfection. I love it so
Yeah,
much.
as I start playing Destroy All Monsters Melee, I mean, I I was that game has really gotten me into Godzilla more. The Godzilla 1985 and the Godzilla game Destroy All Monsters Melee, those things really got me into Godzilla. Those are the ones who started it all at my childhood.
It's so interesting to think about because 'cause I've not heard many people say that Godzilla 1998 was one of their, like, first films, nor have I heard them describe the games as being kind of like their gateway into Godzilla. So I think, like, that's just very interesting to listen to. Did you, how many times have you been to G-Fest?
When I first discovered GFast was in 2015. That's the year when I first went there for the first time. But I heard of GFest before, few years back, before I went there in 2015.
The reason I ask is, like, did you know that they do game tournaments,
Oh yes.
for these older games and stuff? I remember my first time at G-Fest in 2007, I participated, and I kicked butt with
Mhm.
Mothra. People were mad. People were mad, but it was so fun. I was just like, "Yeah, I know how to play her, like, she's my girl. Like, she's my girl." So
Yeah, I noticed because they have this one big room where you play all Godzilla games, including the arcade ones and the new pinball machine they just released last year.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's
Yeah,
so
I never
cool.
get the chance to play one of those games at G Fest last year because it was crowded and people were distracted playing them.
Oh, yeah, like, sometimes when they get in there, they just, like, completely monopolize them, don't they? So, okay. So you largely, cemented yourself as a Godzilla fan in the early 2000s. So as you continued to grow, which films would you say are your favorite and why?
Top three favorites are like so hard to pick. I mean, I guess the third was Godzilla 1985, which is my very first. And I think I'm guessing like Godzilla 2000 was my second. And my number one favorite Godzilla film of all time is
Drum roll.
Ebra Horror the Deep.
Wow, that's unexpected. Why is Ebra Horror of the Deep your favorite Godzilla film?
Is I'm glad you brought that up. And it's because I remember back in 2005 when I first opened my presents that Santa gave me that Santa gave me Godzilla versus the Sea Monster on DVD, was TriStar release.
Mhm.
e- Early days. I mean, first I didn't watch it that much at first, and then the year after, I think, or was it 2007? I think it was. I mean, I started watching this film for the first time. I mean, I gave it a try, and then it started to look more interesting. And then the next day, I'm starting to watch it more and more over and over and over again because it this looks like my Godzilla film. What I like about this film is because Godzilla is on a tropical island and he fights a giant lobster. Or
Right.
some people just call it a giant mutated shrimp,
Mhm.
whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it. I mean, yeah, that's
either or. Either or. No, it's I'm like so that was one of my very early favorite Godzilla films when I was a kid. Well, other than the fact that Mothra's in it, because I absolutely love that. Like there were just such interesting characters. Like the human characters were really funny to me.
oh yeah,
And and I think that I just fell in love with the characters. Like they were just like this late 60s ragtag crew of
that
misfits.
yeah, that's how I felt too. I kind of like the characters in this film, like because when I watch these Godzilla films, I kind of more focus on the monsters fighting. But Ever Horror Deep, I kind of focus on the human characters than the monsters. Bec-
Right, same here. Well, because
yeah,
like you don't really get to I mean, you get to see Ebera earlier in the film, but you don't really get any like kaiju battles until like halfway through the film. So like there's like a lot of lead up to it, you know.
yeah, and what I like, one of my favorite characters was like the robber guy who was in the Yatta boat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, who who played him as a Taraka. I couldn't pronounce his name. I
Oh,
mean,
are you talking about Akira Takarada?
yeah, I still can't believe it's almost been a year since he's
I
gone.
know. I'm still processing it. Like I think that the loss of Akira Takarada was such a huge, huge blow to the Godzilla fandom. Like,
Yeah,
because he was kind of like our dad. I think I always called him our kaiju dad.
yeah. I mean, Ever Horror the Day was his last Godzilla film in the Shona era, and I remember I got to meet him at G-Fest in 2019
Oh,
for the
describe what
second.
that was like for you.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the first time I met him was back in 2017, I think. I mean, yeah, 2017. And then that was the first time I met him. I actually got a picture with him with my stepdad at the time. And then I met him the second time at 2019. And that was the very last time I got to meet him a few years before his death.
I I um I got to meet him, I think it was in 2019. I know it was right before the pandemic started. I got to meet him in 2019 and I was not expecting to meet him, but it happened. And he was so nice, like such a kind person, like had a full conversation with me, you know, was asking me questions. I was just like, wow, like what a like I'm not surprised that he's a very down to earth person, but it was like just very heartwarming to have that like validation that this celebrity that I've adored for years is exactly how I imagined them to be, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was so cool. I am sad that he's gone, but he leaves behind such a magnificent legacy that I think that we will continue celebrating forever.
Yeah.
So,
And we'll always remember him from the original Godzilla film.
I'll always remember him from Godzilla Final Wars because
Yeah. Because he wasn't. Yeah, yeah. And I also like the other characters too from Ebra Horde the Deep, like Dio, and
Oh,
she's
Dio.
she's always my favorite. I remember when I was little watching this film a few times. I kind of had a crush on Dio when I was a kid.
Oh, that's amazing. I loved her hair. I wanted her hair. I remember being like, "Oh, that's nice."
She's played by the Exilian woman from Invasion of Astro Monsters.
Kumi Mizuno, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, such another iconic human being who
yes,
I have never met before either, and I regret that. Like, I
yeah.
want to meet her.
I definitely want to meet her. I hopefully, hopefully I get to meet her at G Fest one of these years.
So, Brendan, now, okay, so you've narrowed down some of the films for us. Like, are there any particular kaiju or human characters that you're drawn to? If so, what draws you to them?
Hmm. Well, what other kaiju monsters that my favorite? I mean, you want me to start with the kaiju's first?
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Kaiju first, then humans.
like I could pick my top 3 or 5. Like, I know my number one monster is Ebra because he's a crab and a lobster, and my second is Mecha Godzilla, and third was, yeah, Gigan, and my fourth is was Megalon, and my fifth is, yeah, Ghidra.
Oh, wow. Okay, a great selection. Many of them Showa ones too, which surprises me. That's good though. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to human characters, what ones do you kind of feel drawn to the most?
Well, yes. Well, usually, like I said before, I don't focus on the human characters first, and well, I guess I can have my top 5 favorite human characters. Like, I know, yeah, Dr. Sarasawa is my fifth choice, and because he invented the oxygen destroyer, and also I'm guessing, like, hey, Yashimura from Ebra, the bank robber. he's
Yeah.
he's my favorite. I'm guessing a Emi Kano from versus King Ghidorah, the time traveler lady.
Oh, I love her. Yes.
Yeah, and she's awesome. I mean,
Such
it's
a great
just,
character.
yeah, and of course, Dio is my favorite, my second favorite, and my number one favorite human character is Miki Sagusa.
Ah, I love Mickey as well. She's so phenomenal. Uh,
Yeah, she played
yes.
through all the Heisei era films except for the Return of Godzilla.
I keep holding out hope that one day we'll see Mickey Sagusa again. Did you know
Yeah.
that Megumi Odaka is acting in another film for the first like has literally come out of retirement and is acting for the first time in 20 years. Did you hear about that?
I did heard. I mean, I think Nick told me he was gonna be she's gonna come back in a new Godzilla film or another kaiju
It's a
film.
new
That what
kaiju film in general, but like that's so exciting, like to see her back in acting, and that may mean that we are getting closer to getting Mickey Sakusa again someday.
and I actually got to meet the actress who played her in G Fest back in 2018.
Me
And
too.
it was it made my dream come true to meet her in person because she is one of my from the Godzilla era.
I, like, cried after meeting her. It was so dramatic because I have spent so many years writing Godzilla fan fiction, and her character's always been, like, the central thread in most of my Godzilla fan fiction, so kind of getting to meet her was, like, just, like, this huge validation of, like, all of those years looking up to this character, so you have me thinking about my top 5 human characters now. I need to try to, like, narrow them down. I would say for me, it would have to be I would say Dio would be number 5.
Yep.
Okay. And then number 4 would be Dr. Serizawa. Number 3 would be Dr. Shiragami from Godzilla vs. Biollante. Such a complex character. A character so complex that I'm so obsessed with that I actually wrote poems about this character. Okay, I said Dio, Dr. Serizawa, Dr. Shiragami, Akane Shiro from the Kiryu saga. Love her so much. And then Miki Sagusa.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess it wasn't that difficult for me to narrow down my top 5. But it tends to change sometimes, so okay, so I have a big question for you, Brendan.
Go right ahead.
So, I would argue that Godzilla has shaped each of us, right, into the people that we are, in some way, shape, or form. How has Godzilla shaped you into the person you are today?
I mean, when I first discovered Godzilla, I mean, with the what I told you earlier, I mean, that's only the beginning. I mean, I wasn't too crazy about Godzilla back then because I wasn't getting into Godzilla yet. I mean, but then as years pass, as like I like I'm starting to like getting into more Godzilla because whenever time Godzilla films appeared on cable television, as I flipped the channels. Yeah, I didn't know there were more Godzilla films, so now so thanks to cable television, I'm starting getting into Godzilla more.
Well, and here's another thing too, like, he's clearly shaped what you do as a creative outlet also, right?
Right.
Because you would not have been motivated to create your YouTube channel. You would not have been motivated to, um, have a podcast, right, had it not been for your love of the character, encouraging you to do that. So talk a little bit about your, Godzilla podcast. Uh, where did the idea come from, and how did it take shape?
I mean, let me start off from the beginning. I mean, I first created my YouTube channel back in 2016. I mean, my before my channel was called Autistic Lizard Production. My original channel name was called Lizard Boy Production.
So what made you change it? That's a really like, I mean, you made the choice. So what made you decide to change it?
Well, I just because the way uh, for who I am now, it's like my personality and everything. Because I have autism, because I was born with it,
Mhm.
and my disabilities, and that's why I want to change my channel name to Autistic Lizard Productions, because I want people that to know that I have autism. Yeah,
That's
because
super cool.
I've learned about autism awareness for years, ever since high school.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, like, there could be other autistic people in the fandom who might look to what you do and see you as representation, right?
Right.
Of a person who is autistic, who is, you know, enjoying their creative outlet and putting their thoughts out there, right? And
Yeah.
making a difference. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and autism is what it made you for who you are, and and I'm thinking about doing a podcast episode about it with my girlfriend someday in the future.
You should. That would be really, really cool. I would love to watch that.
Mm.
Yeah. So, okay, now we have to talk a little bit about collecting. You've already mentioned it a little bit, but How far does your love of collecting Godzilla stuff go? Do you like collect any specific figures, anything like that?
I mean, my very first Godzilla figure I bought as a kid back in 2004, and it was my very first Godzilla Playmate Bandai figure of Godzilla 1954, and along with a second figure I bought, Gigan. I actually got those figures from KB Toy Store that used to be exist.
Oh, I remember it. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, they
That's
do. They used to
interesting.
have those at the mall, but they don't.
Yeah, I don't think they have them anymore. Do you have any figures that you want to show off right now?
Well, I have a few figures right here in person, and they are your favorite. Is the Kiryu squads?
Yes.
Yep, all three of them.
They are
Uh,
phenomenal.
Oh yeah, and here's the 2002, yeah, Kiryu, and the two Tokyo SOS figures.
That is so exciting. Are is Kiru your favorite one to collect, or do you just like to collect all of them?
I just collect all of them. Hey,
That's fair.
including this SH Monster Arts Godzilla.
Oh, I don't have that one yet. Your collection is way better than mine.
Yeah,
Your collection is more expansive than mine, so
and also this little one right here.
my
Yeah,
queen, I love
yep,
her.
your queen.
That is amazing. So, Brendan, are you ready for your final question for the evening?
Go right ahead.
So, do you have any advice for Godzilla fans who may be new to the franchise, or advice for anyone who might be aspiring YouTubers?
That's a very good question, Donnie. It is a really tough question. I mean, all I can say is, if I really want to introduce some friends or family to Godzilla, I mean, all I thought is like if I when I go to Chief Fest this year, I might bring a friend with, and I might introduce him to one of our friends that we know from our channels, and that we already met, and as my friends will be, and that'll be my friend's first time going there, and then this will be his first time meeting our friends. And my second thought, if I is my family. If I want to introduce one of my family members to Godzilla, they already know. The only family member who is starting that she is actually starting getting into Godzilla is my niece.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she'll be turning 3 in a few months.
Wow. You know, that it's interesting that you mentioned that because I feel like as we grow older as Godzilla fans, I think it kind of becomes easier for us to invite people to experience Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I remember when I was a kid, if I ever tried getting people into Godzilla, they were always just like, "Oh, there goes Donnie again, being obsessive about his nerd thing," you know? And
uh,
now I'm just like, there's so many cool things that I think the franchise has to offer, right?
yeah,
So, and I think what better way to do that than by starting with friends and family, as you just mentioned. So,
yeah.
now, let's have you do some shameless plugs. Where can people find your stuff on the interwebs? Where can people find your YouTube?
Well, eh, first I do have a Twitter account for my channel. I don't, and so yeah, I don't really use Twitter that much. I can only post the my one of my videos from my channel whatever time I'm starting to record live, and then I just kind of upload it to Twitter.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm also been thinking about creating my own Facebook page of my channel, so that way I could get more people to subscribe to my channel more.
Yeah. Yeah, so like there are some great you have some great outlets out there, and I do have the links down below, everyone. So definitely go check out Brendan's social media pages, and of course his podcast as well. So all right,
Y-
Brendan, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it
And
has.
I'm so glad that I finally got to have you here. And I look forward to our future conversations as well, because I know there's going to be more of them.
Yep, and I'm looking forward to have you in my next podcast episode in the Heisei era.
We're going to be talking about Godzilla versus Mothra in 92. And if there's a
Yep.
film that I can talk about to an annoying extent, it's definitely that one. So
Yeah.
I look forward to that for sure.
But like I said, I love being a YouTuber and podcaster because I love having special guests on my show because it's a way to get to know them and him get to know me, and it was so much fun. And I love being on our friends' this channel show, including you, Donnie.
Oh, that means a lot. So, those of you out there listening, if you ever want to guest appear, I mean, would it be outrageous to say don't be afraid to hit Brendan up for that? Like his like that would be a great opportunity to collaborate with someone. So, definitely reach out, and of course, you know me, like I'm always willing to collaborate with people too. So, all right, my friends. Well, don't forget that Growing Up with Godzilla premieres on the first and third Sundays of each month at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for joining us again, and talk to you later. Bye.
Sayonara.